the pen felt heavier than it should have. One simple signature, one gentle curve of ink, and a marriage would end. The lawyer slid the papers toward me with practiced neutrality, but my hands were steady, my heart strangely calm. Across the table, my husband Daniel watched me with a smug little smile, convinced he had already won. He thought I was walking away with nothing. He thought I was desperate, broken, defeated. I smiled back, lowered my head, and signed the divorce papers happily. What he didn't realize was that the fine print he never bothered to read had just handed him every cent of the massive debt he had hidden from me before our wedding. When I met Daniel, he was charming in a quiet, dependable way. Not flashy, not loud, just confident enough to make you feel safe. We met at a friend's engagement party, both of us laughing awkwardly near the snack table, both pretending we didn't mind being single in a room full of couples. He told me he worked in logistics for a growing company. I told him I was a junior accountant still trying to prove myself. We talked for hours that night, about childhood dreams, about how frightening adulthood felt, about wanting a simple life without too much drama. When he asked for my number, I gave it without hesitation. Our relationship moved quickly, but it didn't feel reckless at the time. Daniel was attentive, always asking about my day, always showing up when I needed him. When my mother fell ill and I spent nights at the hospital, he brought me coffee and sat beside me without complaining. When I worried about my career not moving fast enough, he reassured me that success wasn't a race. Within a year, he proposed in a small park near my apartment, no crowd, no cameras, just sincerity and hope. I said yes with tears in my eyes, believing I had found my forever. The problems started quietly, almost invisibly. After the wedding, Daniel became vague about money. Before marriage, we had agreed to keep our finances mostly separate while contributing jointly to household expenses. He insisted he had things under control. Still, the excuses piled up. His credit card was maxed out this month. His paycheck was delayed. A business investment hadn't paid off yet. Each explanation sounded reasonable on its own, and I trusted him enough not to dig deeper. Then the calls began. Unknown numbers. Missed calls late at night. One evening, while Daniel was in the shower, his phone buzzed repeatedly on the table. A name flashed across the screen, followed by the word collections. My chest tightened. When I confronted him, he laughed it off at first, then grew defensive. He admitted he had some old debts from before we met. Nothing serious, he said. Just temporary trouble. He promised it would never affect me. But it did affect me. Letters started arriving at our apartment. Thick envelopes filled with legal language and red warnings. Daniel became irritable, snapping at small things, avoiding conversations, staying out late. I found myself lying awake at night, doing mental math, wondering how much debt we could survive, wondering if love was supposed to feel this heavy. When I finally demanded the truth crushed me. Daniel wasn't drowning in small debts. He was buried under them. Failed business ventures, unpaid loans, personal guarantees he had signed without understanding the consequences. The total amount was staggering, far more than I earned in years. Worse, he had known about it before we married. He had hoped, somehow, that marriage would stabilize him, that things would magically work out. He never told me because he was afraid I would leave. Betrayal cuts deeper when it wears the face of love. I felt stupid, angry, ashamed. I blamed myself for not seeing the signs, for trusting too easily. Daniel, instead of apologizing sincerely, began to change the story. He reminded me that we were married, that we were a team, that his problems were now our problems. He hinted that if I truly loved him, I would help him fix this mess. When I hesitated, he accused me of being selfish. The breaking point came when I discovered he had taken a loan using our shared address without telling me. Legally, it didn't bind me yet, but it was a warning of how far he was willing to go. That night, I packed a small bag and left to stay with my sister. For the first time since our wedding, I felt like I could breathe. The divorce conversation was ugly. Daniel swung between anger and pleading. He told me I was abandoning him. He told me no one else would ever love me the way he did. He told me I would regret this. I listened quietly, my heart aching, but my resolve firm. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. As an accountant, I understood contracts. I also understood that emotions had no place in legal documents. I hired a lawyer and read every line of every paper carefully. During the marriage settlement discussions, Daniel was oddly confident. He assumed I would fight for compensation, for assets, for something to cushion my exit. Instead, I surprised him. I told him I wanted nothing. No house, no savings, no support. Just a clean break. His eyes lit up with relief. He thought I was giving up out of exhaustion. He urged his lawyer to finalize things quickly. In his rush to be free of me without financial obligation, he agreed to a clause stating that all debts incurred before the marriage would remain solely his responsibility. That clause was my quiet victory. Not because I wanted to hurt him, but because I refused to carry a burden that was never mine. When the day came to sign, Daniel barely skimmed the document. He trusted his luck more than the words on the page. I signed with a calm smile, stood up, and walked out of the office lighter than I had felt in years. Reality hit him weeks later. Creditors came knocking harder. There was no shared spouse to pressure, no income to lean on, no safety net. He called me, his voice shaking, asking if I could help, reminding me of our past. I listened, truly listened, then gently told him no. I wished him well and hung up. Rebuilding my life wasn't easy. I moved into a small apartment, worked longer hours, and faced the quiet loneliness that follows big endings. Some nights, I cried for the marriage I thought I had, for the future I had imagined. But slowly, strength replaced sorrow. I took courses to advance my career. I paid off my own small debts. I learned to trust my instincts again. Months later, I ran into Daniel by chance at a grocery store. He looked older, thinner, worn down by stress. We exchanged polite nods, nothing more. Walking away, I felt no triumph, only peace. I had chosen myself, and that choice had saved me. The lesson I carry forward is simple but powerful. Love should never require you to sacrifice your honesty, your safety, or your future. Walking away does not make you weak. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is sign your name, close the door, and step into a life you protect with open eyes and a strong heart.